Thanks, Nickers. Now, as a parent, there will come a time when you have to accept that your little baby is actually approaching young adulthood. I don't want to accept that. Anyway, dealing with those first adolescent crushes and boyfriends, girlfriends can be just as hard for you as it is for your teenager. Now, you might not be quite sure how to handle it.
Do you know what happens at proms?
Yes, Daddy, we'll dance, we'll kiss, we'll come home. It's not quite the crisis situation you imagine.
Kissing, huh? That's what you think happens?
Can we for 2 seconds ignore the fact that you're severely unhinged and discuss my need for a night of teenage normalcy?
I'm down. I've got the 411, and you are not going out and getting jiggy with some boy. I don't care how dope his ride is.
Oh, God, who hasn't done that at your parents? Now, here to help you navigate the tricky world of teen dating is parenting author Sharon Witt. Sharon?
Minefield.
Oh, that sort of scene makes my skin crawl. Parents trying to sound sort of, cool. You know, what they're... Yeah. Not what they're talking about. So what is the role of the parent here?
Look, I think the most important thing is that we have communication with our children and that we establish the boundaries. We've always talked about boundaries. And I think, you know, burying our head in the sand, you know, the fact that they are going to have a boyfriend or girlfriend someday, have a relationship, it's useless to do that. So we actually have to understand that at some stage our little child will actually have an interest in somebody else and developing a bit more of a relationship. So I think having discussions from early on, and certainly as they hit those sort of adolescent years, just keep the lines of communication open.
Totally, but what do you say? Like, let's say you've got a 14-year-old daughter and she suddenly has a boyfriend. Yeah. What do you say to her?
Well,
about the
I think you would hope that you actually discuss that sort of way before she sort of hits the boyfriend stage. But
what age then, if she's 14? When should you start talking about it?
Well, I think when they sort of start hitting adolescence, I think sort of year 6, I mean, they start sort of having little boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, sort of grade 5, grade 6, sometimes grade 4. But, yeah, certainly have those discussions about what you expect as parents and then just sort of say, oh, you know, if they've got an interest in someone, just talk about it as if they're just another friendship. Because I think the most important thing is just to remember that they're friendships and they're trying to just learn how to relate to other people of the opposite sex. And I think not to make it too big a deal.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you can say, you know, OK, well, let's have the young man home for dinner and, you know, do those sorts of things. And that just kind of embarrasses them. But I think it's sort of, it just encourages a bit of humour in the family dynamics.
It's very confronting for parents when it happens. So let's say it happens, let's just pick year 7, they're 12, 13.
Yes.
Should you be saying then, look, I always want you to feel comfortable, darling, in bringing Tom home or Sarah home, your boyfriend or girlfriend home, because you're welcome to come here. But when they come here, darling, you are not to do, should you then spell out what you're happy for them to behave in the house?
Yeah, I don't know if you actually have to sit down and have the chat. I mean, it is good to do that if you think that they're sort of at that stage. But many parents, that I sort of put that on Facebook on the weekend and asked parents' reactions, and many of them just said they encourage them to have lots of, you know, friends at home, coming over to visit, you know, have groups of friends, but have the doors open. They have to be in central areas. Every single parent said bedroom doors open, and not in the bedrooms.
What about
just in the central area?
Home? You're at work and the kid's knocked off school.
Yeah, I think then you want to have lots of friends over. Like my son recently wanted to have a group over, and it was boys and girls, so it was a group situation.
Yeah. That won't stop them doing what they want to do.
Exactly, and kids will be kids and they will do what they want to do, but I think it's about having healthy relationships and talking about what your relationship values are in your own home. Yeah. And just adhering to that, but not just saying, I mean, many parents have said to me, it's 16 or it's, you know, after they've finished high school, that's strictly, you know, no boyfriends, girlfriends. But in the end, kids are kids, and they are going to have boyfriends and girlfriends at some stage. And if you just say, nope, it's not happening in my home until you're in high school, I'm sorry, until you're in university, what's going to happen when they actually do? You want to know about it, don't you?
You do, and I guess there's the two extremes. One is a free-for-all and the other one is absolutely, like, really super strict. And I came from a Catholic family where it was really strict. When I was engaged to my husband, I was 26, he was 30, we had to sleep in separate rooms. So my parents knew that we had sleepovers at each other's houses because we didn't live with them anymore. But under their roof, that was it. Yeah. So we got very good at sneaking.
Yeah, that's interesting because I lived in a house where I was pretty much left to do my own devices. But what worked with my dad, and I think it was probably with a lot of parents, is that I had this existence where he would go, I'm really disappointed in you, and it would break my heart. So I would always go, what would Dad think?
Yes,
and I'm not saying I always did the right thing. I did bad things, but I think that, is that about having a relationship?
So you had more freedom so you didn't abuse it?
Yeah, I did, and I would feel really bad if I knew I'd done something wrong.
Sharon,
yeah, how does that work?
I want to ask you, sorry, also about
when your daughter or son starts to obsessively partner up, and you can see them excluding the rest of their friendship
and that's
group.
when it does become an issue. I mean, I'm a high school teacher as well, so I actually see firsthand relationships that get so intense where the other friendships are kind of left to falter, and you know, it's hard for them to cope with their schoolwork, and you know, really they're just so focused, and that's the difficult thing. You want to actually encourage them to have other friendships, and when it's that intense, that might be when you need to step in.
And I think that's, I had a couple of intense relationships, but I sort of looked at my girlfriends who were sort of told the message that they didn't need anyone. I reckon they had more fun in the end. So it's
just watch more Sex in the City. That's the message of that whole show.
Well, that's the thing. Our kids are seeing so much on you know, video clips and on television, you know, in all the soapies. They're seeing relationships. But one of the things I also wanted to add is that as families, it's really good for us to maybe get to know other families and the parents. So, for example, my son had a special friendship recently last year, and so I got to know the mum, and the mum said he wanted to go over to his friend's house and for a couple of hours, and I said, okay, well, let's go over and I'll drop you off. And the mum said, oh, look, I've made, you know, scones and jam and cream, and we're going to have a little afternoon tea outside together. So there we all are, the mums and them sitting there. And I was like, oh, you poor kids, how awkward. But it was actually quite nice because we actually got to know each other as parents as well. So it wasn't so stressful.
What if they will allow the sleepover? Happy to do it in the same room, about 16, 17, but you are separate bedrooms.
Yeah, then you come into a bit of strife. And I think you need to, as parents, reiterate what it is that you stand for, what your own values are in your own home, and stand by those.
Oh my gosh, this is a conversation that could go for 3 hours.
We could go for 3 hours easily.
Thank you so much for coming in, Sharon. Please thank Sharon Witt. Coming up, Emily Power on the most essential elements of a woman's wardrobe, accessories. Stick around, you're watching the best morning show, The Circle.